When I was your age, things didn't look good. The effects of climate change were becoming more and more visible all over the world. Forest fires, droughts, floods, and heat records became more frequent and more severe, especially in Europe. And I have to admit, if someone had asked me 25 years ago whether we would manage to make our continent climate neutral by 2050 to prevent the worst effects of the climate crisis, I would probably have said no. I have seen too many times how Germany and Europe miss their self-imposed climate targets. Today, in 2045, I know that is possible. Germany is now climate neutral. Austria has already been for 5 years, and the rest of the continent will have achieved this goal by the end of the decade. How this was achieved is what this film is about. And I want to tell you this story based on the city I grew up in, my city. I went to school here in 2025. Today, in 2045, I am the mayor and have been working on the energy transition in my hometown for many years. I used to demonstrate for better bike lanes, was part of Fridays for Future, and took part in the climate strikes. After that, during my studies, I collected the best ideas for sustainability from all over Europe and brought them back to my city with me. We have copied many of the concepts that we have implemented here from other cities and regions of Europe. Our heating strategy, for example, comes from Denmark. Our cycle path network is inspired by the Netherlands. And the idea of the city for all, a city in which all people have equal access to important things such as housing, public spaces, schools, work and healthcare. We took this idea from Barcelona. But there was a lot of work ahead of us before all that happened. Because my city was a town like so many others in Europe at the beginning of the 3rd millennium. Electricity was mainly generated from coal and natural gas. Heating was provided by heating oil or gas boilers, and most journeys were made by car. But what has changed since then, and how did we manage? The short answer is, together. Because the Energy Transition Project is a joint task that could only succeed because everyone pulled together. Drivers and cyclists, young and old, residents of rented apartments and homeowners, municipal utilities and their customers, politicians and their voters, Northern Europeans and Southern Europeans. In the end, it turned out, the diversity of our continent and its people was the key to the success of our climate transition. The biggest construction site on the way, there was certainly electricity production. How was it possible to convert a continent as diverse as Europe entirely to renewable energy? What good is the sunshine of Andalusia and Greece if the largest consumers and industrial centers are located in the north? And how do people in Romania or southern Germany operate their heat pumps in winter? These questions paralyzed us for a long time. But the answer was obvious. With a smart, common European electricity grid that makes sustainable energy sources from all over Europe available to all Europeans, 24/7, 365 days a year. Hydropower from the Alps and Scandinavia, wind power from the North Sea and Baltic Sea regions, and solar power from Croatia, Italy, Greece, Spain and Portugal is thus available to all Europeans. Green electricity made in Europe, which is always available where it is needed. We have been sending our energy advisors around town and the countryside for a long time, so that today, the people in our region know how to save energy. Quite a few of them now have their own solar panels on their roof or balcony and store the energy in batteries or in their electric cars. But even the smartest grid reaches its limits at some point if the solar and wind yield is low for a long time. We found many different solutions to this unsolved question of your time. Liquid salt storage, gravity storage, batteries with suds, supercapacitors and many others. And hydrogen can also contribute, provided it is produced in a green way, that is with renewable energy. This is because hydrogen, The H from the water molecule H2O is a gas in which renewable energy can be stored. When the sun shines and the wind blows here in my city today, the surplus energy is stored in hydrogen through hydrolysis. Our old natural gas power plant, which our municipality used to produce electricity, is now just our backup. This means that in times of low wind and summer, the turbines here simply produce CO2-free electricity from hydrogen. It goes without saying that our power plant is combined heat and power. The waste heat, in turn, benefits our district heating network and can be used for heating at home. And indeed, for us in my city, the issue of heating was the most difficult in our transformation towards a climate-neutral municipality. The people at home were mistrustful of heat pumps powered by electricity, preferring to keep their old oil and gas heating systems. In the end, however, we managed it together, with subsidy programs for insulating buildings and replacing heating systems, with increasingly efficient heat pumps and a lot of education and information work. We are now a climate-neutral city, even in winter. Municipal heat planning has proven to be particularly effective in this respect. Cities and municipalities were obliged to do in the mid-20s. In this way, we have discovered a lot of previously untapped potential in my city, geothermal energy in particular. That is, heat from the Earth's interior can cover a significant part of our heating needs in our region as district heating. When I remember today what we did in the 2020s, by burning energy sources, I almost have to laugh. Gas boilers at home, buses that burn diesel, and cars that burn gasoline and diesel locomotives in local transport. None of that exists today. Our vehicles, whether bus, train, or car, are now electric. There are no more exhaust fumes. I can still remember how it used to stink when you stood next to a bus at traffic lights on your bike in the exhaust fumes. Nobody misses those days anymore. And cycling in general. In the past, it was mainly a means of transportation for children and idealists who heroically threw themselves into the evening traffic between cars, buses and trucks. There were always bad accidents here in my city too. But since we have consistently built a real cycle path network like in the Netherlands, more and more people are cycling and the number of serious accidents has dropped to almost zero. In addition, even older people now cycle through my city because e-bikes have become more and more popular. That's why I still don't have my own car. Because in addition to the bicycle network, we now also have a comprehensive network of autonomous minibuses that cover the entire urban area. And if I really want to go out into the countryside on my own, and spontaneously, I know that there are sharing services with electric cars in every district. The number of cars in our city has therefore continued to decrease in recent years, with many other advantages for all citizens. More space for people. Where cars used to be parked, there are now small parks, flower strips and benches. Our whole cityscape has changed. It is greener, quieter and cleaner today than it ever was when it would ever have been in my youth. In fact, my city is now a lively town where you can find almost everything you need in your immediate neighborhood. Schools, pharmacies, bakeries, greengrocers are much more plentiful today. Simply because people no longer drive their SUVs to the shopping center outside the city, but shop in their neighborhood. When I think back to the city center from my childhood, when the only department store had just closed, I can hardly believe I live in the same town today. This may sound strange or odd to you in the past, because I remember very well when I was insulted at demonstrations for climate protection. I have also not forgotten how many families suffered from the high electricity and energy prices back then. Then there were the disaster reports about droughts and floods almost every minute. It would have been easy to bury your head in the sand and say, "It's not going to work anyway." Today, I'm glad I didn't do that and that I've always stood up for the dream of a climate-neutral Europe. From here, I can say today, It is possible. With a combination of reduced energy demand, shared use of resources, an intelligent turnaround in transportation, and the latest storage technologies. And it is worthwhile. But we can only get there together.